Good day, students. Let's talk about geography today, and let me invite you to our new lesson, and that is the positive and negative impact of rivers on people and the environment. And please get your book and open it on page 122. Again, please get your book and open it on page 122. And we are going to talk about how do rivers affect people. As we already know that rivers are very important source of water for growing crops, and 70% of the world's fresh water were found in the rivers and lakes. On this lesson, we are going to learn the two impact of rivers, and these are the positive impact of rivers, and next is the negative one. The first thing that we are going to discuss at this moment is the positive impact of rivers. So here are the list of the positive impact of rivers. Number 1, water supply for farming. Number 2, fertile soil for farming. Number 3, water supply for industry. Number 4, recreation and tourism. Number 5, source of drinking water and food. Number 6, production of hydroelectric power. And lastly, the means of transport. And those are the 7 positive impact of rivers. And the negative impact of rivers is flooding. And now let's talk about the first positive impact of rivers, and that is the water supply for farming. Alright? Rivers are a very important source of water to all people, animals, plants, and all living things in the world. And another thing about river is that 70% of the world's fresh water were in the rivers and lakes, which was used for growing crops such as rice and vegetables. For example, the Chao Phraya River here in Thailand, which has enabled the growing of rice on a large scale. Because of this, Singapore buys a lot of rice from this country. However, there are some areas which receive only little rain. By the help of this river, fresh water is sometimes channeled to provide water to farms. And this method of supplying water to farms through man-made canals is known as irrigation. In Israel, this method of irrigation has enabled fruits and vegetables to be grown even in the desert. So, please take a look at the figure 10.16 in your book, page 122. About the picture of rivers provide water for the growing of crops in the Indus Valley. By the way, before we proceed to the next positive impact of rivers, let's talk more about irrigation. Irrigation is the term used to describe a man-made system whereby water is spread from its natural source, such as a lake or river, over a much larger scale to ensure the aid in growing crops, plants, or agricultural production. So, the two images here are the example of a man-made irrigation canals. And this one is a type of irrigation which is known as sprinkling irrigation system. Alright, I believe that you have followed me. Now, let's proceed to the next positive impact of rivers, and that is the fertile soil for farming. Have you ever wondered why many farmers took a risk in living near a river, though its danger and flooding may occur any time? It's because of the fertility of the soil. When a river floods its banks, it deposits sediments that help to increase the fertility of the soil. When we say soil fertility, it refers to the ability of soil to sustain plant growth into a high quality. That's why farmers are attracted to plant their crops along the river course, where flooding occurs frequently. Example, the Ganges Plain along the Ganges River in India. And the third positive impact of rivers is water supply for industry. It is estimated that 23% of all water drawn by people is used in industries. The industries use water for various purposes, such as for cooling machines to prevent overheating and for the manufacture of food products. The next one is the recreation and tourism. There are activities where rivers could be used for, and that is recreational activities that take place at rivers include rafting, canoeing, and fishing. Like landforms, rivers beautify a place, making it a tourist attraction. That is why many hotels and resorts are built alongside rivers. Alright, let's talk about some recreational activities that could be performed at rivers. And first one is rafting. Here is the example of rafting. Rafting and whitewater rafting are recreational outdoor activities which use an inflatable raft to navigate a river or other body of water. This is often done on whitewater or different degrees of rough water. Dealing with risk and the need for teamwork is often a part of the experience. The next recreational activity is canoeing. Canoeing is an activity which involves paddling a canoe with a single bladed paddle. The two images here are the example of a canoeing activity. And the next activity is fishing. So the image here is the example of fishing. By the way, the Singapore River, for example, is a popular tourist attraction because it forms an important part of Singapore's history. The river is also used for dragon boat races during the annual Singapore River Regatta, where over 2,000 participants meet to compete. So, the two images here are the example of regatta. Now, the fifth positive impact of rivers is source of drinking water and food. Rivers are a source of precious drinking water and food. We cannot survive without water for more than 60 hours. In places where technology is not available to build water pipes to channel water to homes, people live close to rivers. Rivers are a source of food as many edible creatures live in them. When we say about edible creatures, they are the creatures which could be eaten or eatable, like fishes. For example, 73 million people living along the Mekong River depend on it for their supply of fish. And the next positive impact of rivers is production of hydroelectric power. Rivers are a source of electricity. A lot of energy is produced when water moves quickly in a river. This energy can be converted into electricity. Electricity that is converted from the energy of moving water is known as hydroelectric power. Again, electricity that is converted from the energy of moving water is known as hydroelectric power. To obtain hydroelectric power, dams and turbines are built across rivers with fast-moving water. First, dams trap large volumes of river water in one place. Then this water is released at once, turning the turbines quickly. This movement generates electricity, which is transmitted to the various places for use. The three gorgeous dam on the Yangtze River in China was completed last 2009 and became the largest dam in the world. It has 26 generators producing over 18,000 megawatts of electricity. Alright, the last positive impact of rivers is a means of transport. Again, the seventh positive impact of rivers is means of transport. Where it is difficult to travel on land, such as in areas where the land is covered with forest, or where the area is too big and tiring to travel on foot, rivers can serve as a means of transport. The Amazon River in South America is a good example of a river that is used for transport. The river is so wide that even ships can travel on it. Along the Amazon River, water taxis and boats transport people or goods for a fee. In the past, rivers were commonly used to transport logs from forests to nearby mills. This method of transporting logs is known as river driving or log driving. At last, we are done in the positive impact of rivers. So, let's enumerate first the positive impact of rivers before we proceed to the negative impact of rivers. So, the positive impact of rivers are: number 1, water supply for farming; number 2, fertile soil for farming; number 3, water supply for industry; number 4, recreation and tourism; number 5, source of drinking water and food; number 6, production of hydroelectric power; number 7, means of transport. Let's proceed to the negative impact of rivers, and that is flooding. Flooding occurs when the water in a river overflows its banks. Floods can take lives and cause serious damage to property and crops. For instance, the flooding of the Ganges River in Bangladesh during August and September 1988 affected 80% of the country. Do you have any idea how flooding occurs? Alright. A river floods easily when it carries a lot of sediments. As the sediments are deposited along the course, the riverbed is raised. This in turn causes the water level of the river to rise. Hence, whenever it rains heavily, the river overflows its banks and floods the surrounding land. For example, the Yellow River in China regularly overflows its banks during heavy rains because it carries a lot of sediments. As a result, towns and cities along the Yellow River that do not have proper flood control measures face the risk of losing lives and property. So, here is the example of how flood swept through the Bukit Lawang village in Langkat, Indonesia, resulting in the death of more than 100 people and hundreds more missing. Alright, before we end our lesson today, let's do a recap. Let's enumerate first the positive impact of rivers, then the negative impact of rivers. Alright, so what are the positive impact of rivers? Number 1, water supply for farming. Number 2, fertile soil for farming. Number 3, water supply for industry. Number 4, recreation and tourism. Number 5, source of drinking water and food. Number 6, production of hydroelectric power. And lastly, means of transport. That's number 7. And then the negative impact of rivers is flooding. So, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. That's all for today. Have a nice day.